In English literature class in high school, we were taught a short story by William Wymark Jacobs called The Monkey's Paw. And the premise was this old couple receives a dried monkey's paw, and it's considered a talisman, which will grant your wishes. They wish for 200 pounds, and immediately there's a knock on the door, and there's a person from the company that the son works for. And he says, your son has died in an accident at work, and here's 200 pounds as bereavement payment from the company. The couple quickly finds out that the monkey's paw will grant your wish, but not in the way you want it to be granted. Careful what you wish for. This is what engaging in politics feels like to me, especially American politics. Every cycle, every election cycle, leaders run campaigns on big promises and big ideas. But when they get into office, when it's time to execute on these ideas, they try to accomplish them in ways that you don't want it to be accomplished. A good recent example is Trump ran a campaign on peace, and he flexed his record of no new wars in his previous term. But the moment he got into office, his way of ending the war in Ukraine is by bullying Zelensky in the White House and alienating an ally. His way of ending the genocide in Gaza is by asking the population to leave, by displacing the entire population and putting out a video, an offensive video titled Trump Gaza. His way of ending the war in Iran is by attacking Iran and then bullying them into submission. Now, in theory or in hindsight, all of these will end the war, but not in the fashion that we want it to end. And it goes beyond war as well. His idea of improving the economy is by imposing tariffs and alienating allies. It's just one giant monkey's paw. You've studied politics for over 50 years. So I want to start by seeking your advice on how to navigate politics, because it's getting increasingly difficult to avoid pessimism, cynicism, and nihilism. Has it always been like this? Has it always been this frustrating, this depressing, so seemingly pointless? Are we stuck in an infinite loop, or do you think this is a unique, special period?
Well, there are reasons for hope and there are reasons for despair. Every time we sink into despair, suddenly a new hope emerges on the horizon. Mm-hmm. So we went through very barren times, and then when everything seemed so bleak, a septuagenarian Jewish fellow from Brooklyn who called himself a democratic socialist went out to campaign for his ideas, and he himself, this was in 2016, he himself was shocked by the reaction, the huge groundswell of support for the Bernie Sanders campaign. In 2020, he came very close. The Democratic Party leadership proceeded to sabotage his candidacy, in particular Barack Obama, behind the scenes as the South Carolina primary came into play. The Democratic Party elite, led by Obama, proceeded to sabotage Bernie's campaign. That, of course, was a big disappointment. Then there were the George Floyd demonstrations, which were about 50% white young people. And you saw the possibilities of a real coalition between young people who are white and non-white, all of whom in our city, in our country, were facing a futureless future. Then the George Floyd demonstrations, for various reasons, didn't succeed. I can go into that later, but I won't digress now. And then when everything seemed so bleak, never bleaker, with the genocide in Gaza, then the assault, the destruction, the apparent destruction of Hezbollah, the Party of God, and then the attacks in Iran, I was focused very much on Gaza and Iran. But I hear from people these mutterings about this fellow named Zohran Mamdani. I didn't really know what to make of it. I couldn't pay enough attention to it because I was so focused on developments elsewhere. And then something absolutely thrilling happened. The billionaire class, the Upper East Side, who have only two concerns in life: making our cities safe for billionaires and making our cities safe for Israel. That's their only two concerns. They mobilized fanatically to stop Zohran Mamdani. They outspent his campaign by a minimum of 30-1. The official numbers are Mamdani was, Andrew Cuomo was given $30 million. Mamdani raised $1.2 million. And that huge constituency out there, the 80%, it's not 99%, as the Wall Street slogan, or Occupy Wall Street slogan had it. We are the 99%. It's not 99%, it's about 80%. 20% if you're in IT or in finance or in the what's called in the United States, the professions, medicine, law. If you're in the professions, you're doing not just fine, you're doing a lot better than fine. But if you're not, you're facing a precarious present and a futureless future, which is about 80%. I went out in the last week campaigning for Mr. Mamdani, and there were a few revealing episodes. So I was outside a shopping mall, and 5 young women came by. They were probably around 25. I gathered by their feely touchiness, they were lesbians, and very cheerful. So I said, "Oh, okay. What do you do?" She said, "I'm an actor." I turned to the second. "What do you do?" "I'm a singer." I turned to the third. "What do you do?" "I'm a writer." And then the fourth one chimed in. In other words, we're all baristas. And then they all burst out laughing. In other words, the dreams are still there. The dreams are still there. But there's a huge chasm separating the dreams from the reality of this wretched system. And but there is a constituency out there, the proverbial masses. They're out there, and Zohran Mamdani tapped into that energy. I went to, as I said, in the past week I was working on the campaign. The average person was not more than 25. It was a younger crowd than Bernie. The Bernie Sanders campaign, you could say, it went into the 30s. This campaign wasn't even the 30s. It was the young people, fresh out of college and facing the reality. There's nothing there. There are no jobs. There is no affordable housing. There is nothing. But you know what? I still teach. Occasionally, I'm allowed to teach. I still occasionally teach. I don't make anything. I don't even care. The paycheck is a joke. I don't even look at it. I I register when I get the check, so I can see that they're giving me my check, because everything is done through the mail, and then things get lost. But I don't even look at the amount. It's so laughable. But the young people, I teach at a city university, so it's mostly immigrant and working poor. Immigrant and working poor. The minds, it surprises me, because the iPhones, the web, destroyed the minds of young people. Catastrophic. But you know what? The minds remain nimble. In class, they're sharp. You can have really lively, intellectually challenging on a high level. So the young people, they haven't yet been zombieized by the social media. And so he tapped into that. And that's a very large constituency. It's about 80%, for example, of New York. If you can organize them and educate, those have always been the signposts of the radical movement. Organize and educate. If you can organize and educate, I still remain hopeful. I was not hopeful. Even while I was campaigning, it was very hard to tell, because we have our city is ethnically balkanized. So if you take my neighborhood, which is predominantly Jewish, I checked the results yesterday. My neighborhood went 66% Cuomo. But then if you go to Prospect Park, where I was 2 days ago, not only was it solidly, I said, if Prospect Park is representative of the city, I don't think Cuomo got a vote, because they had already voted early, and they were all Mamdani. In the black neighborhoods, because I went to an African-American neighborhood, they were Cuomo. So me doing the math, my neighborhood, hopeless, Jewish, and all. If you could have seen my mailbox, it was stuffed with campaign literature. We have to stop Mamdani, anti-Semite. We have to stop Mamdani, Muslim radical. It was crazy. So if you had judged from my neighborhood, hopeless. If you judged from the African-American neighborhoods, did not look good. If you judged from Prospect Park, it looked ridiculous. I mean, we were walking around. I said, let's find a place where people are opposed to Mamdani, because this is just too easy. So I did not think he would win. I figured, judging by the neighborhoods I was in, he would only win in one of the three neighborhoods, But there is a constituency. I've always said our most powerful weapons, we don't have the money. We don't have the institutions. We don't have the media. What we have on our side is truth and justice. And Zohran Mamdani's campaign showed that truth and justice, even in the face of a total media assault on Mamdani. I mean, the New York Times said he doesn't even deserve a place in the ballot. There's hope. There's hope. It's going to be a very tough struggle in November, but organize and educate, I think we can win.
Leon Trotsky used to say, in any war, the decisive factor is not the weapons, but the morale of the troops. Mm-hmm. So it's positive to hear that there's hope and there's some optimism, definitely an uplifting thought.